Alright, we're all going to pretend that I didn't disappear for the last 3 months with no explanation. A lot of stuff happened, main one being I broke my foot and couldn't do pretty much anything for like 5 weeks, which left me with basically no motivation to do like anything. But anyways, I'm good now. I'm finally able to walk again and want to get back into routine with making videos and whatnot. So yeah, I'm back. Everything's good. Just let's get onto Reddit. At the time, I was in my old bedroom, which was basically one of the smallest rooms in the house. I'm now in a new bedroom, this one way more spacious. The bedroom was about 5 meters by 5 meters, and it could only fit a bed, 2 nightstands, and a dresser with a mirror screwed on top. It was in the basement, and most of you probably think a basement is dark, creepy, and eerie, but mine was not. My parents made sure to make it as full of life as possible. They painted the walls, installed a gaming room, which I used often, and basically making it really cool if someone in our family wanted to have a party there. Now the room I had, I think it was actually fair that I had that room, because before we moved houses, both my brothers had to sleep in a tiny bedroom, about 5 square feet large, basically the worst, and I had the biggest room in the whole house. So at the time we had 3 cats. One died later on after what I had lived, but that's not really relevant to the story. One of the 3 was my favourite. I loved her and took care of her, and she made sure I wasn't depressed. Sometimes we would let her go outside during the night, and I would let her go in sometime when she scratched at my window. She still does it to this day. I was an insomniac and I never slept well. My parents knew about it, so they decided to get me some melatonin pills to help me sleep. My window was on the top of my bedroom's wall, which meant my cat didn't need to hop on any type of ledge or border to scratch with her paws on it from the outside, letting me know that she wanted to get in. It was a night that I decided to take some melatonin pills, which worked fantastically when I couldn't sleep, and so I was literally about to fall asleep, like I was on the edge of dreaming, and I heard my cat scratch, or so I thought. I sighed and got up to move my curtains out of the way so I could let her in. But when I opened my window, I heard something move, or step on the rocks that were around my window. At the time, I was too sleepy to realise that it wasn't a cat's footsteps that I heard, but a human's. So, as a normal person, I yelled my cat's name and put my hand on top of the window to tap on the ground, as such to let my cat know that she can come in. That was my mistake. In no time, I heard footsteps coming straight to the window, and I felt a man's hand grab my arm and start to pull me out of my window. I started screaming for someone to come and help me, but nobody came. I felt the adrenaline rush into my body and I quickly grabbed a sharp object. I believe it was a dirty knife covered in old food, and stabbed the guy's hand. Blood dripped out of it as I heard the blood-curdling scream. The scream I would remember my whole life. The man quickly ran as fast as he could, and I fell back onto my bed, opening my door and running as fast as I could upstairs to my parents' bedroom to tell them the horror story I just lived. They woke up fast and called the cops, reassuring me that I was safe and everything, caring for my horrible wound from the man's grip on my arm. They arrived at the house and I told them what happened. I was still under adrenaline, my words not sounding very clear. With the man's blood that was on the knife, they still managed to get his name and where he lived. They followed up on us and told us that he got arrested for attempted kidnapping and that he already got charged with many other crimes before. I'm still traumatised to this day. A few nights ago, my roommate woke me up around 2 AM knocking frantically. I immediately knew something was wrong, and my feeling was validated as soon as I walked into the living room and 4 cops were inside. They proceeded to tell me a man woke them up by turning their lights on in their living room, closing the door behind him, taking his shoes off and putting the keys on the table. My roommate of course said to get the fuck out over and over again, pleading with him. But he kept saying this was his house, this was the address he was given, this is Macy's house, and Macy let him in. He seemed to be high off as something, but the scary thing is neither of us had heard him get in. He took the screen off the window and crawled through. It was unlocked, even though we thought it was locked. We have a bunch of trinkets on our windowsill, but nothing was broken or knocked over. How can you be so fucked up you think someone's house is your house, yet you're still fully in control of your body movements? When my roommate told him they were calling the cops, he simply went out to the living room, sat on the coffee table and waited for them to come. The only experience I personally have seeing him is when there was 1 police officer inside and 2 outside holding him. One of the officers opened a door to either get in and out, and without slightest hesitation, this man lunges at us. It's like he didn't care at all there was 3 police holding on to him. I could hear him screaming all the way down the stairs. What is so eerie is that nothing was stolen or broken. He seemed to really think this was his house, yet the story kept changing. I got in contact with his co-worker who said he went out to the bars, but this cannot just be alcohol. Anyways, if anyone has any idea what drug this guy was on, please let me know. To the random man that broke in, let's not ever meet. I don't know where else to go with this, and it still bothers me, so sorry if this isn't exactly fitting for this subreddit. This was maybe 6-7 years ago. I have photos on my camera still, I think, but I haven't charged it in ages. I gave up on photography, you know how it is, so I hope you will just trust me. So we've been going on these trips as a family for a really long time now. Probably 17 years if I had to guess. I won't say where it is we go, but it's in the Australian bush just to give you an idea of the setting. Anyway, we've had a few creepy experiences there, but nothing inexplicable. But this event still weirds me out, and I can't really think of anything that explains it. The year of this, my sister, cousin, dad and myself all drove up together and were the first to arrive to the house. We had to wait for my grandma to arrive with the key, so my dad just sat on the deck with a beer and my sister, cousin and I went on a little journey. The three of us made our way to a little creek not far from the house that we nicknamed Bridge to Terabitha because of a tree that had fallen that acted as a bridge for us to use to get across the creek. This creek never had water in it, though it was not deep or wide. We could easily walk through it, but the tree was fun. Anyways, my cousin makes an off-the-cuff comment as we walk across the tree asking, sort of sarcastically, is there something dead around here? Because of how many flies there were. Lo and behold, we get to the other side and there was something dead. We were greeted with a dead kangaroo. Nothing too jarring, I had seen plenty on the side of the road, but this one was cut clean in half, and when I say clean, I mean clean, like it was perfect in half. There wasn't an ounce of blood on the fur, no blood on the ground, and the top half was nowhere to be found. I happened to have my camera on me and I took some photos of it. Then my cousin poked it with a stick and literally hundreds of flies came out. My cousin and sister kept poking at it, trying to move it into the creek, but a fully grown kangaroo, even half of one, isn't exactly light. Their sticks broke, so I grabbed it by the tail and pulled it into the creek so that we could bury it, but really we just covered it with sticks and flowers. We looked around up top everywhere for the second half, or a trace of what might have happened to it, but we couldn't find anything. We ended up going back down into the creek and walking through it looking for something, and what we found only made it even more confusing. We found, if I'm remembering it correctly, 4 dead rabbits, but only their bottom halves, all lined up neatly along the floor of the creek until it reached a thick bush that we couldn't walk through. Same thing with these rabbits though, no top halves to be found, no blood anywhere and cut clean in half. Sorry this was way longer than I intended, but I hope you will read through it and maybe give me some ideas to explain what this was. Don't know why I couldn't get the last bit out, but we move. We still go to this area every year and I have never seen anything like this again. I don't fucking know, to be honest. Unless it's one of those people that go hunting and then keep like the animals' heads like on one of those like, you know, like wood things and like hang them up in their homes. That's the only thing I could possibly think of. If it's not that, then I don't fucking know. Nope, really can't think of anything. Literally the only thing I can think of is someone like, you know, hanging animal heads on their wall, which is kind of disturbing. Back when I lived in the rural Midwest about 10 years ago, I lived in a house right off the highway. My house was right between one town and another, almost right on the county line. Our house had a big circle driveway. If you drove into the driveway, you'd be going straight towards our barn. If you curved right, you would pull into our garage. If you went past the garage, you could circle round in the front of the house and pull back out to where you started. Our house had 2 large double doors in the front, which were rarely used. We always used the door that was inside the garage. One night, it was very late, my doorbell rang. My husband, my 3-year-old daughter and I were all asleep. It woke me up and I thought maybe I was dreaming. It rang again. I woke my husband up. He thought I was hearing things until it rang again. It was very dark outside, but we have a dusk to dawn light, so most of the driveway is pretty lit up. Unfortunately, you can't really see the front door unless you open the door and look out. You can open just one at a time, or you can open them both by using 2 latch-like things that are in the top and the bottom of the doors. My husband gets up and I follow him. He decides he's going to open the door. I want to call the cops, but because we live on a county line, we know it's going to be a while before they can get here. He opens the door to a girl, maybe early 20s. She looks normal except for the fact that she's standing at my door in the middle of the night. I look past her and her car is pulled into my driveway just off the road. Not up to the house, not around the circle. She said she needs to use the phone. She says her car battery died or something. She's not sure, but she can't get it to start. I told my husband, no fucking way. This is how horror movies start, and we offered to call the cops, which would be the county sheriff. She asks over and over, but I'm not letting her in. We tell her we will call and she kind of stomps off. We watch her walk back to the car, maybe 50 feet away. I can see her car, I can see her. I call the cops. They say they will be there as soon as they can. About 15 minutes. They don't sound very concerned, and at this point, I'm not really either. I mean, it's just a girl. She probably does have a dead battery. She opens the trunk, no lights come on. She rummages around in the trunk, and then the driver's side door opens. Out steps a guy. Then the back passenger door opens. Out steps one more guy. They all rummage around the trunk, no lights on. I can't hear anything, I can't hear them talking, and I can't tell what they're doing. They all get back in the car. Now at this point, maybe 5 minutes have gone by, and I am silently praying that the sheriff puts his foot on the gas and gets here quick, but I know it's going to be another 10 minutes or so. They just sit there, in the car, lights off, not moving. I can't see them when they're in the car, but I know they are in there. I know they didn't get out of the car and walk past the house because they would have had to walk right under the dusk to dawn light. I would have seen them. I think I see the driver light a smoke. That part I'm not sure about. Then I see someone walking towards the car from the right, coming from the direction of the barn. It's a man. I have no idea who this man is. We don't have a neighbour for at least a mile, and he's coming from the back of my property, which ends in a creek. He walks into the dusk to dawn light straight to the car. He doesn't look at the house. He just walks to the car and gets in the back. The car starts up, and they slowly back out of my driveway and head north. The cops arrive about 10 minutes later, and at this point I'm freaking out. They search around but can't find anything. Ask us if we've got a license plate, but they were parked too far away. Tell us to call if they come back. Sure buddy, thanks. My husband goes and gets his shotgun from the shop on our property, and we try and go back to sleep. They never came back. I don't know who those people were, and I don't know what they wanted. Creepy people in a car without a dead battery. Let's never ever meet again. Hey everyone, I don't post much on Reddit, but I need to get out what happened just a few hours ago. This seemed like the place to put it. For some background first, I'm a 29-year-old woman. I live in an apartment in some sketchier side of my town, so I'm not unaccustomed to strange people pulling up and strange things happening. I've been through a home break-in, so I'm very hyper-vigilant when it comes to keeping myself and my home safe. I also smoke cigarettes. Nasty habit, I know, but having cats and not wanting my house to reek of smoke, I'll walk outside to my balcony to smoke. That's exactly what I was doing when this happened. I was sitting on my balcony, smoking and just enjoying my night, when I noticed a car I've never seen before pull into the back of the parking lot of my apartment, right by my balcony. I initially felt a bit off, but I didn't want to come off as being the paranoid neighbour, so I keep sitting and smoking my cigarette. Then I hear footsteps making a beeline through my backyard. There's a large and burly man that I've never seen before walking briskly through my backyard. Again, I still don't try to make much of it because they might be there for my neighbour. My anxiety is definitely on alert, but not in panic mode, until I realise he's going straight for my portion of the backyard. He then does something that is still freaking me out as I type this. He stops right in my backyard and looks up at me on my balcony, not saying a word. Now I'm in absolute panic mode. I audibly say, "Oh fuck no," spring up, slam and lock my balcony door, run to my upstairs bathroom and dial 911. I listened to every sound from downstairs while I stood panicking in my bathroom, and truthfully, it sounded like someone was messing with my back door. I don't know for sure because I was in hypervigilance. I do know he was in my backyard for a few minutes because I was in my bathroom for several minutes until I decided to peek out my balcony window. I saw him walking out to his car and getting in. That also tells me I don't think he was able to rob me. That also tells me I don't think he was here to rob me, but something more sinister. Luckily he was lazy because again, I live on the cheaper side of town, so you can imagine the quality of my doors and locks. I'm really hoping it was just some guy who was drunk/high and had the wrong house, but my gut is telling me otherwise. Regardless, I hope we never meet again.